Impressive Typhoon Khanun drawing close to Okinawa on tonight's tropical weather bulletin. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical weather bulletin for August 1st. Yes, it's the first of a month, and look at this, the tropics springing into life in 3 basins, with a notable exception of one. Khanun, a strong category 4, 4B, which has formed surprisingly in the northern Bay of Bengal, and Tropical Depression 5E in the eastern Pacific. Day 62 of Atlantic hurricane season, the odd one out, and the area of interest that we're monitoring in the central Atlantic has model support collapsing around it. 40% chance now, down from 70% earlier, and that could be taking a further tumble. Day 79 in the eastern Pacific, Tropical Depression 5E likely to become our next named storm and probably a hurricane, and 2 other areas of interest that we're monitoring. 10% to the west probably won't form, 30% behind to the east, that one could form later on in the week. Khanun there, a category 4 typhoon, looking very good. We'll look at that in a moment on satellite imagery. A 30% area of interest springing off of its southeastern part, and could end up becoming a cyclone all on its own. Tropical Storm 4B forming off the coast of Myanmar, moving northwestwards towards the Bay of Bengal coastline, or should I say the Bangladeshi coastline, not far from the Ganges River Delta, moving northwestwards, and that one could make landfall over there. It currently has winds of 50 miles per hour as well. Satellite imagery from the last 24 hours shows that a lot of rain has been occurring from that storm in question, as well as Khanun there. Look at some of those red zones, a monsoonal type storm forming out of 4B, and that will be moving inland, producing a lot of rain. Well, here is Khanun moving gradually northwestwards over the last few hours, and it's been looking good. I think maybe a little bit of a gap there in the western, swirling around to the southwestern side, but in general it's a good eye wall, almost fully filled out there, with very good cloud top temperatures well into the minus 70s, which is just about reaching category 4 status. I would suggest that a full red ring usually means at least 140 miles per hour, and in this case might be higher, with that very nice eye there as well, with a decent temperature inside that too. But just because of that gap that we're looking at there suggests that this storm is probably a little bit weaker at 130 miles per hour. There's rapid scan though, showing that band has actually filled in a little bit more on those more recent frames, so it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few hours. Here it is on radar, not far from the Daito Islands, and heading towards Okinawa. Will pass very close, I feel, as a category 4. Now here is the Bay of Bengal system. Look at that, developing, moving northwestwards, a clear circulation and rotation there, looking very good. And here's the other one, Tropical Depression 5E in the eastern Pacific, another one that has rotation there, looking decent. North side looking much better than the south side, still got a little bit of a way to go with convection, but I think that one's got a good future ahead of it, and will be generally tracking towards the west, away from land. So many things to cover on that satellite imagery portion. Here's the sea surface temperatures. The eastern Pacific's got plenty of energy for that tropical depression. Where it is right now, it's around 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, so very warm for that system. The Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico, also very warm, similar temperatures. Around the Bahamas and up the Gulf Stream, very warm temperatures all the way up to the Outer Banks, around Cuba as well, into the Caribbean Sea, also looking very good, well over 30 degrees Celsius. Out at sea, also good values there as well. Western Pacific still looking decent, although noticeably cooler in a few spots around Taiwan, the Philippines, and towards China there, but where Khanun is, temperatures still lingering around 29 degrees Celsius until it enters the East China Sea. The Bay of Bengal, that warm spot there, is exactly where that cyclone is forming, 30 degrees Celsius off the coast of Myanmar and Bangladesh. In the Arabian Sea, it's hit and miss there, with much cooler temperatures further west. Southwest Indian Ocean, of course, into its off-season, so temperatures are generally well off the boil. below 26 degrees in most areas. Similar for the most of the Australian coastline, except for some parts of the far north and for the southern coast of Indonesia. Also for southern Fiji, cooler temperatures there now, and Vanuatu, with the northern islands of Vanuatu still under 26. A significant cool pool in the western Pacific thanks to Doksuri and Khanun so far compared to average. Although in the eastern Pacific, look at that blue area I feel is really shrinking, and a big red area starting to appear just south of the Baja California Peninsula, which is really putting things into the next gear for the eastern Pacific, and we may see some more activity now. Atlantic still looking fine, as it has done the whole season so far. Of course, we're still early days, but very warm temperatures. Here's the oceanic heat content. Lots and lots of energy over there in the Caribbean Sea, especially further west through the Yucatan Channel. Eastern Pacific also building up again there off the coast of Mexico, where that current depression is. Good values there. Western Pacific going off the boil a little bit near the Philippines, but I think it will build back in. The main hotspot right now is near the Mariana Islands. GFS computer model for the next 5 days then, one of many models that have completely dropped this invest that's in the central Atlantic, and it was looking so good for it. I'm still not sure why the models dropped it, and also want to point out that other system that had a 30% chance earlier sweeping up the northeast coast there and beyond Newfoundland, and the chances are now dwindling substantially on that one as well. So it does look like that we'll have at least another week here without any development here in the Atlantic. East Pacific, looking at these systems, number one on the left hand side, that doesn't look like it develops. The second one, of course, is the depression already, and there it is, there's a small compact hurricane there on the GFS within the 5-day period, peaking according to it as a category 2. That is actually what the National Hurricane Center is going with as well. They're calling for a 105 mile per hour peak within 5 days. There's a next system there forming as well that we've given 30% chance on that one. GFS wants that to be a mature hurricane by day 5 as well. Here's Khanun moving just south of Okinawa, probably delivering at least category 1 winds there, probably higher, and there it is, stalling, really stalling, just to the northeast of Taiwan. It moves northeastwards eventually, past Okinawa again within that 5-day period, and holds on to some of that intensity. If it does start to weaken, the rate of that weakening will be somewhat dependent on how much it stalls. You can see it losing some of those winds there, but gaining them back as it starts to move northeastwards. You could also see that second system starting to form, a very large one out further east. Here's the rainfall pattern, of course, with this new development with the forecast now for a stalling storm and not actually flinging itself into the coast of China. We're looking at extraordinary rainfall amounts possibly, hopefully at sea, but there's a few land areas that could get very high amounts of rain. We're designating some land areas now on this forecast, except those ones in the middle. 20 inches possible for some of those islands off Okinawa, that's 500 millimeters, but look near the center, potentially 70 inches, 70 inches, and that is getting on towards 2,000 millimeters of rain. In Taiwan, also looking at decent amounts there as well. Of course, after Doksuri could be an issue, 18 inches probable there. Looking at the longer range, day 5 to 10, this is the Eastern Pacific, so 5E is the one that will just passes south of Hawaii there, still active. By the time we get to 10th, 11th of August, looks like it's about to die off past the Hawaiian Islands. That second hurricane, a powerful one by the looks of things, really looks to get itself going in the Eastern Pacific there, thanks to those warmer waters now, probably getting to category 4 according to that. What happens to Khanun? Well, it's still stalling. It turns back towards the southwest, and then that other system past it moves round to Japan, and finally a landfall in China around about the 9th of August, still as a typhoon for Khanun. And after that, an enormous, gigantic system starts to form where Khanun used to be. How exactly does that one form? Let's take a look. Does it form out of that other little system there? And look to its east, a few other satellite storms as well. It's really a crazy period there in the Western Pacific where we could see some really messy situations, but more storms possible. scan the barcode and that will take you to the Force 13 merch store. We have all our usual items as well as our still waiting for Hone t-shirts, because Hone is still not in sight, so you may as well wear it because it's the only Hone that we'll see. In the silly range then, 5E still continuing there. It dies off quite quickly after that, as does that following system, and then a third system starting to appear further east there, one that forms quite late compared to the other two in terms of where it ends up, and quite a short-lived storm as well. There it is, becoming a tropical storm around about the 12th, 13th of August, and then moving towards the northwest. So certainly could have an active period in the Eastern Pacific, but I think the Western Pacific, looking at all of this, will steal the show. Well, what does happen then? The Western Pacific, with that enormous system, gradually moves towards the northwest, barely gets to typhoon status actually, and then really affects Japan there and the Korean Peninsula, and then that second system moving in behind it as well. So how many systems is that we've counted there? We've got Khanun, possibly 2 satellite systems, this one, the other one that moves into Japan, and that second one there at the end that might move into Japan at the end of that run to day 16. Quite extraordinary. I didn't count that. I think it was 6, maybe 7 different storms. Goodness me. You can talk about all of that and how likely that may or may not be on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13 for tropical weather and general weather chat, with over 3,500 weather watchers from around the world. It was August 1st, 1989 that had another active spell for the world. The only basin that wasn't active in the Northern Hemisphere was North Indian. The Atlantic was showing itself. Chantal was the highlight, making landfall on this day as a Category 1 hurricane in Texas. Tropical Storm Dean had just formed. It was about to do a recurvature off towards the north. Ken Lola was active in the Western Pacific. One storm track that got 2 names. You didn't usually see that much later on than that. And Mac was also active. And Hurricane Gil in the Eastern Pacific. Active times, definitely. In the Atlantic, though, a lot of people are very disappointed that this invest looks like it might not be getting the traction we thought it would. The next name is still Emily. The Eastern Pacific, it is still Dora, but we haven't quite received that yet. We should be getting that any time. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Lam, and that may be on its way soon as well. North Indian Ocean, the next name is Tej. As far as I know to this point, they haven't named that storm yet, but if they do, that will be what they call it. And in the Southern Hemisphere coming up, Jasper in the Australian region, Alvaro starts the Southwest Indian Ocean season, and Lola is next for the South Pacific. That's all from tonight's Tropical Weather Bulletin, hopefully back on a normal schedule. We'll be back again tomorrow night.